Today we are driving the 2026 Acura RDX A-Spec Advance, but as always, let me give you a brief tour of the car before we get it out on the road. This car is a little over $54,000 as tested, so keep that in mind as we look at the inside and the outside of this car. As far as the key fob goes, it feels relatively high quality and you can remove most of the vehicle from the fob itself. Taking a look at the exterior, the RDX has these beautiful jewel-eyed LED headlights. There are some functional ventilation and fog lights beneath that and some gloss black finishing the bumper at the bottom. The recent 2025 refresh brought a revised diamond pentagon grille with a massive Acura logo in the middle, and taking a look at the sides, most RDX models have standard 20-inch alloy wheels. This particular A-Spec Advanced model has a beautiful contrast finish which I think fits the car very nicely. There's A-Spec branding on the side, and as far as the mirrors go, they will have heating, blind spot monitoring, auto dimming, and power folding. With the A-Spec and A-Spec Advance, you get a lot of sporty elements like gloss black moldings at the bottom, gloss black finished door handles, and some gloss black trim surrounding the windows. Taking a look at the side profile, you will have a very conventional shape to this RDX. There isn't anything crazy going on like a coupe-like silhouette. The wheel and tire setup at the back is the exact same as the front, and these wheels look absolutely beautiful. Here is the piece of gloss black that is surrounding the windows that I was talking about earlier, and moving around to the back, the RDX is a very simple but elegant design. This was mostly unchanged for the 2025 refresh, but one exclusive A-Spec element is this aggressive rear diffuser at the bottom with dual exhaust. There is also A-Spec branding finished in chrome and mostly LED taillights. However, there is an incandescent turn signal which is kinda disappointing. On the Advance and the A-Spec Advance, there's a standard hands-free power opening tailgate which is very convenient. Behind the second row, there's 29.5 cubic feet of space which isn't class-leading but is still very usable. There's a cubby on both sides, a power outlet, and my favorite thing about the RDX's trunk is what lies underneath the floor. There's a big compartment for something like a grocery bag or a box, and even more cubbies for better organization. I love how organized you can make this whole trunk area in the RDX. There are also levers to fold down the second row seats, and when you do, you will find 59.8 cubic feet of space. Now let's go ahead and close up the trunk and take a look at the interior. On the RDX, there is smart keyless access on all 4 doors. That is standard equipment. On the second row door panel, you will find soft touch plastic on the upper part, some suede stitching through the middle, and a real metal speaker grille. There is a usable amount of storage space at the bottom. As far as the seats go, they are fixed in place so they cannot recline or slide, but they are relatively comfortable and made of premium Milano leather. They are also heated. In the second row of the RDX, there is plenty of legroom and headroom. It is close to the amount that is in the second row of the MDX. There is also a good-sized seat back pocket, and the back of the seat is finished in plastic so it is very easy to clean. In the middle, there are 2 vents, 2 USB-C ports, and buttons to turn on the heated seats. There isn't a third zone of climate control, which I think is fine considering the size of this vehicle. In the middle, there is a fold-down armrest with 2 cup holders, and the middle seat itself is actually quite comfortable because there is a good amount of padding and the driveshaft temp is almost not even there. Let's go ahead and take a look at the front next because that is where the real money is on the interior. There is no soft closed doors on the RDX as you would expect for this price point, but taking a look at the front door panel, you will get some elevated materials. There is soft touch plastic on the upper part, a suede insert with red stitching, leather, a real metal speaker grille, and some more aluminum trim. The storage space at the bottom is also more usable. There is A-Spec branding finished in aluminum on the door sills, and as far as the seats go, they are made of the same premium Milano leather. They have heating, ventilation, and 16 ways of power adjustment. Let's go ahead and start up the RDX. The steering wheel is very nicely leather wrapped and heated. There are aluminum paddle shifters on the back, which is a very nice touch, and there's some aluminum accenting with A-Spec branding at the bottom. As far as the gauges go, these have been unchanged for the 2025 refresh. They are still red for the A-Spec and A-Spec Advance, which is very cool at night but not so cool when the sun is shining directly on them. The little digital display in the middle has a good amount of customization, but it isn't as high-tech as some of the competitors. In the middle, you will find your climate controls, which are very easy to use and still physical buttons, and you will find your heated and ventilated seat controls. There is dual zone up front, and all of the buttons work very nicely and feel relatively high quality. Here is your drive mode selector, so you can twist the knob and you will have different animations on the screen, which is a very cool touch. and you will still find the touchpad on the RDX. A lot of people don't like the touchpad, and I personally don't mind it, but compared to the new MDX's Google-based system, this is definitely a downgrade. The new MDX's system is extremely fast and very responsive and a lot more easy to use. The touchpad, however, is relatively simple because it's just like touching the screen, but you are touching the touchpad instead. For the 2025 refresh, they relocated the wireless phone charging pad to this area, and the center console got a little bit bigger. Overall storage on the RDX is very impressive. As far as the shifter goes, it is a push-button style and relatively easy to use. Pull the R for reverse, and that will bring up a very high-resolution backup camera with a 360 view. There is also active trajectory and multiple different angles to choose from. You can also push this button on the side of the stock to bring up the forward-facing camera or the side-facing camera. I wish, however, that they would get rid of that big portion of the screen that is unused and expand the camera to take up the whole screen. Up top, there is an auto-dimming rearview mirror and a large panoramic sunroof. I am very excited to get this Acura RDX out on the road, so let's go ahead and wrap up this brief tour and do just that. We are on the road with the 2026 Acura RDX A-Spec Advance. Let me start us off by taking a second to talk about the powertrain. The RDX comes with only one powertrain option, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because that one engine option is very impressive. That would be a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine putting out 272 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. That is mated to a 10-speed automatic transmission, and the fuel economy isn't the best in the segment at 21 in the city, 26 on the highway, and 23 mpg combined. This engine is very smooth and powerful, and it does make a very good noise. We will also be doing an acceleration test a little bit later in the video, but I would like to see an RDX Type S because that would be such a cool car. Compared to some competitors like the BMW X3 and the Audi Q5 and their base engines, the RDX's is a lot more powerful, and in my opinion it sounds a lot better. However, if you are looking for high performance, you need to go ahead and look elsewhere like the Mercedes-AMG GLC 63 SE Performance. That is a plug-in hybrid vehicle and it is super fast. As far as around town driving is concerned, the RDX would be an amazing commuter vehicle and a great daily driver. As far as around town driving is concerned, the RDX would be an amazing commuter car and daily driver. The ride quality is so smooth and compliant, and you don't even have anything like an adaptive air suspension or adaptive dampers. It is simply a unibody crossover that is very easy and comfortable to drive. Now, another great aspect about the RDX is the size. This car is 187 inches long and 75 inches wide, which I think is a great size. It is very comfortable on the inside and has plenty of space for 5 passengers and all their cargo, but it doesn't feel cumbersome to drive. In fact, it is actually very easy and maneuverable, and that is something that you cannot find on a lot of new vehicles today. A lot of people like to get big cars, which I totally understand because they are so spacious and luxurious, but if you are in bumper-to-bumper traffic, tight parking lots, or narrow roads every day, something that is the RDX size is going to feel a lot more comfortable and secure on the daily. Let's go ahead and do an acceleration test and test out this 4-cylinder engine. Wow, this RDX is one powerful vehicle. Now that we are on the highway, let's go ahead and talk about some highway driving dynamics. Like I mentioned, around town, the ride quality is absolutely amazing even here on the highway. Tire noise is not really noticeable, and passing traffic does make a little bit of noise, but there is a fair bit of wind noise entering the cabin. However, I think that for $54,000, Acura did a good enough job insulating the cabin from outside noise. Just keep in mind that if you are going from an MDX and downsizing to the RDX, it is going to be a little bit louder in here compared to that vehicle. I think the quietest vehicle in this segment is definitely the BMW X3. As far as driver assistance systems are concerned, you will find all the standard ones like adaptive cruise control, auto high beams, blind spot monitoring, and pre-collision assist. These work relatively well, although I will say the adaptive cruise control is very sensitive. Even with the closest following distance, it slows down a lot for the car that is way ahead of you, and if you are trying to pass them, it will still slow down and it will take a long time to keep up with passing traffic. There is also no form of hands-free driving available yet on the RDX or any Acura product. The ZDX was the only vehicle that had a hands-free driving system because that was heavily based on the Chevrolet Blazer EV. Overall, on the highway, I will say that the RDX is a very comfortable vehicle to be in. There is plenty of space throughout the cabin, the seats are very comfortable, and the ride quality is excellent. So if you are going on a road trip or commuting on a long commute in this RDX, I think you will be very comfortable and happy with your experience overall. Now that we are off the highway, we're going to talk about some things like the handling, transmission, and the braking. When it comes to the braking, the brake pedal is very easy to modulate, and Acura did a very good job tuning this pedal. Also, the brakes are very powerful, but they aren't overly grabby. I think with the power and the bite of these brakes, you won't really be wanting for any more, but I will mention that you cannot get an upgrade from the factory themselves. That is something you will have to look to the Germans for. For our second acceleration test, the RDX feels very powerful from a dig, and that is thanks to all of the torque it has. For the handling, this car feels very light on its feet. The handling is very impressive because we are in the A-Spec Advanced model. The Sport-tuned suspension isn't going to allow as much body roll, so you are going to feel very confident behind the wheel of this RDX. Also, Honda and Acura products naturally feel more high performance than something like a Toyota or Lexus, so that has that going for them. So if at any point while you are driving you need to make an emergency maneuver, you can definitely do that confidently in the Acura RDX. Also, this is a great time to talk about the 10-speed automatic transmission. This is the only transmission available on the RDX, and for the A-Spec and A-Spec Advanced models, there is nothing different about them. There isn't any sport tuning for it, which I don't think it really needs because it is still very fast and very smooth. When it is shifting between its 10 gears, you barely feel the shifts at all, and when it is downshifting, it always goes to the right gear and never gets confused. That is good, and that shows that Acura put a lot of time and effort into tuning this transmission. Other vehicles that I have been in haven't had the best tuning for their 10 speeds because they might get a little bit confused between gears, and as the driver, that doesn't really give you a good experience. But we are about to wrap up our video in this 2026 Acura RDX A-Spec Advance. Overall, I am very impressed with this vehicle. For under $60,000, this car packs in a lot of value like beautiful interior materials, good technology, an elegant exterior design, and plenty of power underneath the hood. Also, I think this A-Spec Advanced model is very appealing because you have a very luxurious interior but a very sporty and good-looking exterior. This also delivers a great driving experience with plenty of power, a good amount of space on the inside, and also the ride quality is excellent. So would you buy this 2026 RDX over something like the BMW X3 or Mercedes GLC? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.